What's up, Mike?
How are you doing, buddy?
I am doing really well. It is a beautiful sunny afternoon here in Washington, which is rare for this time of year in the middle of January. But so I'm feeling good.
Well, you got out of Tulsa last week just in time. We got hit with we're 20 something degrees, but and then they're talking like 16 inches of snow this weekend, which was absolutely not happen. But they always try to prepare us for the worst, so we'll go buy all the toilet paper on the shelves. So.
That's right. It's the Retailers Association. That's, So I am super excited for our show today. We are kicking off a new series. We've hinted at it online the last few days, but it is our Young Machine Shop Founder Series. And I think this is particularly important because, as we know, for decades now, there's not been nearly enough people moving into, the machining industry or manufacturing in general. Shop classes started disappearing from high schools, 20, 30 years ago?
At least, yeah.
Even when I went to high school, there was drafting classes and stuff, but not really a machine shop class. But as we all know, this is the most essential industry in the world and the most difficult. So when we have people as early as in their late teens or early mid-20s that are deciding for their own volition, whatever that word is, that they are going to jump in the pool with both feet and start or buy a machine shop, it is a miracle to me. So,
well, and it's always fun to talk to insane people, right?
Yep. They always, yep. I like it. And, we had, when we were conceiving of this, we decided that sort of 30 years old was the cutoff, which means that our oldest in that cohort will actually be born in the last century, just like you and I were.
Right.
And the gentleman we have on today just barely sneaks into that category.
Yep.
I think he said he's born in 99. So with that, let's introduce our guest here, Caleb Harris with Covenant Manufacturing, right?
Yeah.
Welcome, Caleb.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Super excited to be on the podcast. I've been listening to Making Chips for probably since 2020, somewhere around there.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So huge fan of the show.
History.
You have a, so total side subject, you have like a favorite thing you've learned, like episode we did or something that like really stuck with you, or just kind of in general?
It's tough to tell. I mean, because it's such a conversational format, it kind of just it's like one long narrative altogether. So there probably is. I think a lot of the quoting stuff, when I was trying to figure out the whole shop thing and figure out, how the business side works, I would listen religiously. And there's a lot that I picked up that I can't identify an episode.
Yeah. A lot of listeners know my story. And when I bought my shop, I was like, oh, there's a podcast. I had to like download a podcast player because I didn't even know what one was at the time. And it's kind of the same thing. Like I went and listened to like 100 episodes to catch up to the current time. And I don't remember that there being, any specific thing, maybe other than what prompted me to go to IMTS to meet Paul. Yeah. I mean, it's just the collective, right? Like it's all the stuff and the war stories and the scars and the good and the bad that people talk about on the show that just kind of add to your overall experience.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that probably the Making Chips show, Paul's podcast, and a couple others, there's not a lot of education on how machine shops should be run from a business perspective. So unless you're going through a manufacturing business course, and I've never heard one of those, you guys are pretty much how I learned to run a thing. So
that's what we try to do. So that's good to hear.
That's what we're here for.
It's super helpful. Yeah.
How many systems does your business run on right now? ERP, CRM, HR, accounting, documents, dashboards, and way too much manual work just to connect the dots. That's where Scaylor comes in. Scaylor unifies every business data system into one governed source of truth without ripping out all the tools you're already using. No migrations, no duct-taped integrations, just clean, connected data with full lineage, governance, and sourcing built right in. Scaylor understands where your data lives, how it flows, and what actually represents across your organization. It powers a natural language interface so teams can ask questions in plain English and get instant business-ready insights without bouncing between platforms. Already using Snowflakes or Databricks? Great. They organize data. Scaylor understands the business behind it. Scaylor. All your systems, one clear picture. Go to Scaylor.com and get your free demo today. That's SCAYLOR.com. Once again, SCAYLOR.com. Get a free demo of Scaylor and finally unify your business data once and for all.
Well, with that, let's get into a little bit of your background, Caleb. Tell us about your childhood, what got, when you started getting interested in making things, or what inspired you to originally start a shop? What year did you do that? And just tell us about the shop today.
Yeah. So I guess I'm one of the younger people, so I can only go back so far. But I grew up homeschooled my whole life. And both my parents have advanced degrees in their particular fields. And so when they took approach to child rearing, Dad especially, he at one point picked up Malcolm Gladwell's book. I forget the name of it, but it was the book that established the 10,000 hours rule. Few people may have heard of. And so he got really excited by that. And he kind of took it a step further, where if most people are entering a particular industry, let's say 18 to 23, somewhere in that range, that will start the clock on their 10,000 hours. He figured a 13-year-old is smart enough to pick up the basics of a particular industry. And pretty much every parent with a child can know that the kids usually have particular interests. So Dad's approach then was tried to encourage us, and because he can modify our curricula quite a bit, he would have us spend quite a bit more time out of our schooling day focused on whatever particular interest we had. So I've got a number of brothers who are into software, media, photography, that kind of thing. And so he would modify the curricula to go into those. I really liked making stuff by hand. I was the kid either taking apart airsoft guns or, building Legos. Everyone loved Legos in our family.
Yeah, sure.
Or, building wooden swords. That modified into different versions of metalworking, particularly. So I had a little stint where we're playing with like wire wrapping jewelry. That eventually Dad spent extra time taking us to the local jeweler shops, and I took a few lessons on like silversmithing, very basic stuff. Then by the time I was probably 14, 15, going down the YouTube rabbit trail, this is when knife making became really popular on YouTube in particular. And I'm like, I could do that. There's an old propane torch in the garage. So that spent probably 14 up until I was 17. I went all in learning how to make knives. I was studying. My parents had 2 one-car garages, and I managed to convince them to have most of one of the one-car garages for my shop. Wow. And OSHA would not approve of anything I did in there. There's a lot of...
So were you forging?
I really liked anything that had to do with fire. And the modification of the metal that way. So
you never burned down the house.
Yeah, it's risky. It
was just the garage, Paul. It's fine.
It's just the garage to this day. One time I was grinding a blade with a cutoff wheel. I didn't realize the difference between a cutoff wheel and a grinding wheel, so I did all my grinding with a cutoff wheel. At one point, snapped that. It blew up. One shard hit my eyeglass. The other shard went and lodged in the drywall. My parents didn't find out about that for a year, and I think the mark is still in there today.
Well, thank goodness you had the glasses on.
No kidding.
Yeah, I learned that lesson.
Nightmares of that.
Yeah, so I went down that rabbit trail for quite a while. Instagram was becoming really popular at that point, and it was few enough makers where you could make knives and you could sell them on Instagram. There's like it was a pretty simple system. You'd get into contact, they'd pay you via PayPal, you'd ship it that way. I was not making very much money at all compared to the per hour. So I was trying to figure out different options. Then I heard about a friend of a friend who ran one of those maker spaces in the Sacramento area, which is a couple hours away from where I grew up. And so I moved in with my aunt and uncle in that area. And then I ran my business half out of the maker space because they had a power hammer and we could do a lot more Damascus forge welding type work there. So did that for about 6 months or so. And, I had moved out, I had graduated. This is going to be my career. It's a business. After a few months of doing that, I hammered out the hours to see how much profit I was making. And I was making approximately $2.50 an hour. And I'm like, okay, so this is not really working out.
That's a true founder right there.
That was it was fun, but it was not going to cut it. And at that time, I joined a local church, and a guy, an older gentleman there, Steve, he had befriended me, and he ran an engineering firm, HVAC, plumbing, electrical. Mm-hmm. And he had paid his way through college working at a machine shop. And so I was telling him about the knife thing. He's an engineer. And he's like, well, that's all pretty good if you're not making much money. I've heard that this machining stuff has come quite a ways since he was working at it. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'll check out what machining is. I had seen like bridge ports and manual equipment, that kind of thing. I'd never seen a CNC before. So I look it up. First thing that pops up is a Titan video. Didn't realize that at the time, but this is when Titan Gilroy was in Roseville. So that was like 20 minutes away from where I lived. Yeah. So it was super close. I'm like, oh, this is cool. I'll look into this. I'm still really into the knife thing. And I kind of built my whole passion, the future around it. I'm trying to figure out my identity at the time too. And I was 18 at the time. And so I look into that. It's pretty cool, but I'm still trying to do my thing. And then on Instagram, I found a shop in the Bay Area called Beg Knives, and they did very nice folding knives. They're one of the few people who started at the time introducing CNC work.
Yeah, I think I know exactly who you're talking about. So I love knives, so I'm gonna.
Yeah.
I'm gonna want to connect with you on some of these knives you made too. So.
I could go off for days talking about it. Still love them. I haven't made one in years, but
I think I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, they're probably, I'd say they're one of the top. There's like a family of makers or people who've kind of been associated with their shop. So I'm realizing, all right, well, my own business is not working out. I'm going to have to call it a flop, or I'm going to have to live with my aunt and uncle for the foreseeable future. And since those are probably not options, well, let me just go see if I could figure out. These guys are doing they're using automated equipment for their knives. The knife world, once again, to the artisan world, the issue that I hit was for people to pay a lot of money, it has to be handmade. Sure. To be handmade, you can't scale it. And so, but these was one of those shops that had really, really nice knives that were, for all intents and purposes, one-offs and handmade, but they had CNC equipment. So I figured, all right, well, if I could get a job there, worst case scenario, and I have to switch trades, I'll go into like the precision stuff and it looks really cool. Or my main goal was figure out how to do really nice knives there, maybe rise up with them. Didn't really have a plan, but reached out to them. I had started doing kitchen knives in particular, which to get them right, there's a lot of geometry that's involved. And I'd kind of figured out some hand grinding techniques. And so that was an easy in to get a job with Beg Knives, who was branching out into the kitchen knife industry at the time. So moved out there, worked for Beg Knives for about a year, I think. I'd have to look at my LinkedIn profile to see exactly how long I was there for. But they had, the coolest thing ever to me was a Haas VF2, and it was like 3 years old. And seeing a touch probe was mind blowing. Metalworking to me was all fire and grit, sandpaper, files maybe. So seeing like a clean side to metalworking that kind of lit the fire for me. And so worked there. One of the cool things about them is they had a wire EDM. The lock ramps on knives have to be a very particular angle in order to not be sticky, but also not hit shut. And so getting the angle just right and precision there was really important. So they elected to buy a brand new EDM just for that purpose. And that was probably one of the better moves they did, because that put them up in quality. And that's what really set them aside, where they could drop their prices a little bit, but be still in forget the prices. I think they were between the $6,000 range to the $15,000 to $20,000 range for individual knives. So they were the half mass produced.
Wow.
So that was a lot of fun. Got to see the work there. They had 3D laser engravers. I think it was a Z Tech, and that tech was just really, really cool to check out. So I was there because it was a product shop. They didn't do a lot of new programming. They had a few models of knives, and then my job there was among a lot of hand fitting and polishing type stuff. I worked on the CNC machines, but it was as an operator. And so I was there for about a year or so, and I started to pretty quickly realize that one of my goals was to get married and start a family young. And the wage in Petaluma, probably one of the more expensive counties in the U.S., I was not going to hit it working as an operator there. So started, going back to Instagram, researching things. I think I even tried DMing Titan at one point to get a job with him. Never got a response there, but So one guy, Dylan Tanner, who worked for another knife shop, and he was a programmer there, he recommended, hey, the money seems to be pretty good in programming. You should be able to get to something like a job shop and learn that there. So I started mulling over that, looked on Craigslist for jobs, listening to a couple different podcasts. I eventually figured out that probably the fastest way to make a good wage in this industry was to find a low volume, high mix job shop. Because that kind of where I got stuck was I was making really cool parts, but as an operator. So my value add was not very big. It was just keeping parts on and off the machine. But the money would come in if you were the linchpin in between, turning your engineer's blueprint into an actual part. So I started trying to find a job shop that would work. One popped up on Craigslist. They were advertising for an entry-level operator position there. And this might come up later, but pretty much what sold me on them was they had an up-to-date website. Every other shop in the Sacramento area, which is where I wanted to move back to, most of them looked from the 90s, and they're really good shops for sure. As I found out later, a lot of them are now customers of mine. But when you see an old shop, I'm trying to think of something that's advancing my career. So if it looked old, that was kind of turned off for me.
So, website from the last century.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The century I was born in.
Right. Exactly. You don't want to look like it's from the 1900s. So
I hate it when people say that.
I was born in August of 99, so I barely skated in. So.
You got to experience Y2K. You just don't remember it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, reading up about that afterward was wild.
I was in IT at the time. It was really wild.
Oh, man. That sounded terrifying.
We were all on call.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I got engaged that night.
Did you really? Congratulations.
Wow. So I wasn't worried about it.
Nice.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, more important things on top of mind.
If you were in IT, you were on call at midnight on 99, 2000.
Yeah.
I know
the whole world was going to shut down.
Oh, yeah. I have friends who were freaking out, Some people knew or thought it was going to be end of the world. All wild stuff.
Everybody did.
Yeah.
Anyway, total side subject.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like it's history to me, but I was alive during that. But anyway,
right.
So I reached out during this time on the news. There was some stuff coming out. Oh, at Beg Knives, we had suppliers. How their company worked was they had very high end knives that they made in-house. And then they had second tier knives that were still very nice. They were in the $200 to $500 range. But the designs were based off of their premier ones that we built in-house. But the cheaper quote unquote ones were made offshore. And so we had suppliers in other countries. And during this time when I was trying to find another job elsewhere, find a job shop, we'd start hearing from some of our overseas suppliers that there's some sort of flu thing going around and that there were certain delays in some of our product. Didn't know that at the time, but that ended up being COVID. And I reached out to ask for response to the Craigslist ad at a job shop in Sacramento called Langel's General Machine. Got an answer back. Over the weekend, I went and did an interview with them. It's very easy to get a job in a job shop. It's basically, are you smart enough to pay attention? Can you do some maybe basic math, and can you push a broom? There's people are not really looking for a lot to get started. So I got a job offer there on the spot, had my start date at 2 weeks later. And so go back, give my boss notice. And then this new thing comes out where everyone's supposed to hunker down for 15 days. And the owner of Langel's, he reaches back out to me and is like, hey, can we delay this just a couple weeks until this 15 days thing and this whole coronavirus stuff is, in the rearview mirror? We'll delay it just that much because, they don't want anyone new to come in. And then I was in the Bay Area at the time, and the Bay Area was they clamped down very hard. We had all the rules of certain employees. They had slips on whether or not you'd be allowed to travel or go into work. Yeah. We were making a consumer product, and so we were not considered essential. So it was very weird at the time. And I was kind of freaked out. So I pushed hard, can I just come in anyway? You could just have me sweep floors, not touch anyone. I want to get my career to the next level. And I was honestly at the point where I wasn't sure if the highways would be closed down from the Bay Area to Sacramento.
Sure.
I had no idea at the time. Probably wasn't even a reasonable fear looking back at it, but
it was a weird time. We weren't sure what was happening.
I was 19 and I didn't know what to think. So I figured I'd better push to try to get in.
I was not 19 and I didn't know what to think. I mean, it was a weird time.
It was wild. But pushed to get in there, and he's like, all right, cool, you can come in. We'll have you sweep floors, whatever. So got into Langels. It's spelled Langels, but it's a French name, so Langels apparently is the correct pronunciation. And so got the job in there. In the first few months, it was just sweeping, cleaning tool holders. Eventually, it'd be operating when there were larger runs. Most of everything they did was under 20, 30 parts a piece. It was very much a high mix kind of shop. And it was probably mid-size. I'd say probably about 30 employees. And I really, really appreciated my time there. One, they had some very masterful machinists. They had a couple guys whose tenure they had been there. Let's see, the foreman, he got his first job there when he was 18. And he turned, I don't know, he was in his 60s by the time I got a job there. And his whole time was there. He loved the job. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. A couple guys who were there, not quite as long, but almost. It was second generation owned. It went from the grandfather founder to his grandson. And so he was, I'm not sure exactly how old he was, but it was a very good shop. It was kind of a new type of work environment to me. Everything is fast paced. I realized very quickly that the pressure was on. And part of the reason I got the job there was I wanted to learn how to program. And kind of my approach was, well, if I get a job as an operator in a shop where it's a few programmers and mostly operators, the business itself doesn't have incentive to teach you. You'll really have to push yourself. And while that does go a long way to push yourself, it seemed like it would make sense to go to a shop where all the jobs are programmed, set up, and run yourself. And that was the case there. And I realized very quickly that that's a lot of pressure. Because I was basically losing them money up until I could program, set up, and run a job. And so there was a short run before that. So that helped.
Did they put out their target times or what they quoted the job to be done in? And it was your goal to do it in less than that?
They used, it was the ECI or Job Boss. I forget what it was called at the time, but it was, you get your traveler, you have your setup time, you have your run time, and then you gotta beat both of those. So that was cool. They had a really cool system in teaching where in their shop, they would put their oldest machines, stagger them in between the newest machines. So they would have their really high skilled programmers and they'd have a very old machine that they didn't care that much about it right next to it. And so when I graduated from shadowing, just helping and operating, to running my machine, I was put on an old 3-axis Matsura. I think it was from the mid to early 80s. Old, but that thing held tense. It was really
like
cool.
A 510. Do you remember the number?
It was the green model before they switched to red, then back to green, I think.
Okay. Those are good old machines.
Yeah, it was really cool. The old Yasnak control. And so how that worked out pretty well because I would have a very experienced programmer right next to me, and I'd be working on my own. So he could come over while his machine is running, teach me how to do things.
That's cool.
And that worked out very well. And then I could run his parts for him. And they kind of did an old school style apprenticeship like that. That was really good. So I worked there 2 years. About a year in, during that time, I was figuring, all right, either I want to get a high paid career. So either go to a shop foreman was one option, or get my own thing going. And after the knife thing, I was, I felt a little bit defeated having my thing not work out. But after a couple of years working for other people, I'm like, nah, I want to do my own thing again.
Okay.
So I started looking about 6 months in. Then about a year in, I had told the guy, he's kind of more private, so I won't give his name, but we'll just call him Bob. He was the programmer who probably taught me almost everything I know. He had run a shop for a while, and he was very experienced. And so he would tell me about things. I told him that I wanted to start a shop. and he'd give me advice on how to go about it, how to quote jobs. A big piece of advice he gave me was Job Boss would record your time because you punch in and out of jobs, but he always advised, once you get your print in and the traveler in, look at it. Before you look at what the traveler says your time should be, look at the print and write down what you think it'll be, both your setup time and your run time, and put that on a little Post-it note, put it on the machine.
That's good advice.
It was very helpful. And then run
Were you generally high or low?
Oh, I was.
To what the shop thought?
I was way slower. I was really slow a lot. I was always confused at the time. The foreman, he was one of those guys, like, he must have been, I don't know, he seemed like he was on crack, always walking around in the entire place, knew everybody by name.
He might have been
always asking if you were done yet.
Okay.
Pretty much everything ran through his mind, and he was on top of it. And I was always confused, like, why he was rushing everybody and why he was asking why they were done yet. Now that I'm running my own jobs, I ask myself, why is this not done yet?
The dollar a minute's clicking away.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah. So that tip of writing down what I estimated and then comparing to the time, that was really helpful, both for improving at the time, because I could really quickly, and it's hard to visualize, all right, did I spend all my time actually setting something up? Is it because my setup was weak and I had to redo it halfway through and that like doubled or tripled my setup time? Did I just like, was I walking around trying to find, a particular drill bit for an hour? Having that, my expectation, and then the actual afterward.
I want to put us on pause and I want to go talk to my team real quick.
Yeah. It's helpful. And then gradually, as time went on, I could see myself speed up in relation to the setup times. And then every once in a while, they would accidentally leave the purchase order with the material. And then I'd start to get, okay, this is what management quoted the job at. This is what I'm running. They were pretty private about their numbers, but you could fairly quickly, as time gone on, I could tell what the shop rates were and then how I was stacking up. And those really helped later when I was starting to quote my own projects, because I had enough experience then in guessing what the time was. And that would kind of sharpen my brain to see whether or not my guesses were high or low. So
that's such a valuable lesson, though, that you learned so early in your career, right?
Oh, it was helpful.
I have a few guys been doing this for 40 years and they don't think that way still, right? Even though we try to coach through that and do those things.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's, as you're a great example, I mean, if you care about that and understand that piece of the puzzle, you're immediately bringing more value than some percentage of everybody else.
Well, that's an owner's mindset right there.
It's 100%.
Yeah.
Do you find that have you had guys come through that seem to think less like an owner and then switch to it? I mean, in regard to how they run or think about jobs?
So I think I tend to run a very entrepreneurial organization. I mean, that's the people I get along best with. That's how I've spent my entire career. So those that, yes, I mean, I think I've had a lot come in and it's an 8 to 5 job and have grown in that kind of owner mindset, that entrepreneurial professional type. And a lot of it's who I pour. I mean, it is absolutely, as they embrace that, I pour more into it, right? I mean, it's probably natural on both sides of the deal.
Does it seem like they kind of acclimate to the culture? Because like I hire people part-time here or there, have yet to make a full-time hire. So kind of what I'm thinking about right now is, do I try to get a character rock star sort of person straight off the bat? Or can I get somebody who's got more of like an operator mindset and train them up? I hear over and over, you can't train the character stuff. You have to select that. You can train skills, not motive.
I mean, I would tend to agree with that statement. I mean, but I mean, like you pointed out earlier, I mean, in some cases you're just hiring a warm body, right? But I think you just, I don't know how early in my career I started, you see it in people or you don't. I remember when like colleges started coming out with degrees in entrepreneurship, and I'd already been 10, 15 years into my career and had been an entrepreneur that whole time. And I just used to laugh. I'm like, well, that's the stupidest degree ever. You don't teach entrepreneur. Like, you're an entrepreneur, you're not. It's kind of is kind of the way I saw it. And and I guess that's not really when they started them, but that's just when they started becoming more popular.
Right.
But no, I think you can teach it now. I mean, as I've kind of grown throughout my career, I mean, I think there has to be an owner mindset. It takes a lot on the individual. They have to be inquisitive like you are. They have to, want more. They want to do things, but no one's born with a lot of that, right? Like you do have to learn it. And I think under the right culture and environment that promotes that, then it's absolutely teachable skill.
Okay. That's really helpful. Yeah.
I don't know, Paul, what do you think?
I think there are absolutely some people just with that innate spark and just like drive to learn and be curious and just like always looking to learn and improve. Or I know some people that seem to from birth been like that, but
I think I was like, I think it was just natural for me. That's
But even if, I still also agree that it can absolutely be a skill set that you can cultivate and get someone excited about and sort of get that spark, really lit and burning, to where they just really kind of start to blossom and, thrive in those ways.
Huh. Yeah. Let's see. Where were we?
Well, we got to be getting close to like you decided you're going to do your own thing.
Oh, yeah. So at that point, I'm hitting up Craigslist. Steve, the aforementioned guy who kind of got me into the trade to begin with, the engineer, he had in his engineering firm a warehouse attached to the offices, and the warehouse was solely for his fishing boat, but it had some room in it. And so he and I got to talking, and he's like, "Hey, if you ever
want one of those warehouses at one point,
it's the best. It works. It's a
best warehouse I ever had.
Good spot to start. You could do your fishing out of it. You can make your parts out of it. Anything." So
because I'm here looking at your LinkedIn, and your Langills goes until April 22.
Yeah,
but Covenant starts in September 21.
Yeah, so that was, I had saved up over about a year. I'd saved up about $10,000, and I'm doing my research and everything. The practical machinist forums are helpful, but not if you want encouragement. At least not at the time. A lot of crusty guys, and there's plenty of if you want to start a machine shop, remember you need about $60,000 for your machine, and then you need about another 60 to tool it up. So you're looking at 120 all in for your bare basics, and that's kind of like that's the advice that you get, which is probably good advice, but I didn't really like it because I only had $10,000 at the time.
Okay.
So I browse Craigslist. Eventually I found somebody in the Central Valley who's selling an old 2002 TM1, a Haas TM1. And this is one of those, they're completely open, no tool changer on it. The ways are exposed. Very simple machine. It's max 4,000 RPM. But it was $10,000, and that was it. So
there you go.
Called up a friend and mentor of mine who's now my father-in-law, and I'm like, "Hey, you have a truck. Could I borrow your truck?" And he had another friend who had a tilt trailer, and so I was able to borrow the truck and the tilt trailer, and we went down. I think I gave him, the $10,000 right there. He loaded onto the trailer with his forklift, which is no problem. This is in 2021, I think. And so we drove that back up. I was freaked out the whole time. This is not a air ride trailer or anything. We took the I-5 back up, and if anyone's driven that road in the Central Valley, it's a very bumpy road, and I'm tense. My life savings are in this machine. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. If it bumps and gets damaged, I don't know how much abuse a machine like that can take on the road, and I'm freaked out that it's not going to be even able to hold thousandths by the time I get it there. So
got it.
We finally get it up to the warehouse. Steve tells me that cool, he won't even charge me rent for the first few months until I start getting jobs in, so I've got a place to stick it. So we get it to the warehouse that afternoon. I figure, okay, well, it's a tilt trailer. We'll just like gently push it off. We'll be careful. So it'll take probably quite a bit of time. I figure we'll have like 2 hours for the unload. So I had a couple roommates come out. I had rented a couple of machine. Oh, yeah. So we started loading it. And then I very quickly realized that it's a small machine, but it's not that small. and machine skates don't really go that smoothly over very old and bumpy wood. So what I thought would be a 2-hour unload ended up, I think it was the better part of 8 hours. And we finally got it off the thing. Well, because my problem was I put the center of gravity over the back of the tilt trailer. So as the trailer tilted backward, the center of gravity was behind the rear feet. So we had to use a really weird ratchet strap system to tension everything and keep it from falling over.
Love it.
Yeah, high adrenaline the whole time. Anyway, we got it off finally, got it into place, put it down. I didn't have enough money to get it wired in. So I waited about a month for my next paycheck so I could pay an electrician to wire it up. And I was still working full-time at Langell's at the time. Mm-hmm. And once I got that there, a friend of mine owned a dirt bike shop in town, and they couldn't get bushings in from China. And so they needed to get them locally. I told him the thing he was doing. So he ordered 200 bushings, steel bushings. So I had some basic tools. That was my first job. Ran it. I think I charged like $10 a bushing. So I was $2,000. First big job was that $2,000. I was so psyched to get that amount of money back.
Absolutely.
It was no tool changer. So you have to stand in front of it and, change them out one by one. But it worked, and I could do that nights. And so then over the next year or so, I would, work the full-time job at the machine shop. It was about 40 minutes away from where my new shop was. And I started learning more and more. I talked to some local people. I'd reach out to mostly other job shops that I knew that Langell's didn't do work with or work for. And I asked them, hey, do you have any overflow work? I'll do cheap stuff. I figured until I started making money, I didn't have rent. I paid cash for the machine, so I didn't have machine payments. There was really no cost to me at the time except for the materials and the tooling that went into each job. And so I started off just charging $50 an hour shop rate. I'd make, half of that was profit for me. I was making $25 an hour. That was incredible. I was making at the time $21.50. So making 25 was incredible doing my own thing. So I did that for a while. The other expensive part was the tooling. And so for quite a bit, I had one of those small tool chests, portable tool chests. And every day when I'd clock out at my day job, I'd bring that with me. And I started getting freaked out. Like, do they think I'm stealing or anything? Nobody cared. But I thought everybody had eyes on me. And eventually, I didn't tell anyone that I had started my own thing on the side. Eventually, Bob, the machinist who taught me, he noticed me bringing tools in and out every day. And I usually try to come in early, stay late, so that way people wouldn't be like watching me or any of that kind of thing. And I'd bring my own tools in and out. And he's like, you bought a machine, didn't you? Don't tell anyone. So did that I was doing my own thing for about a year or so. The commute was killing me because it was 40 minutes between the two. Having, it was quite a bit of work, and my workload was increasing. So I'd be working very late nights. Eventually I figured, okay, well, I should probably move on. It's going to be I didn't take any work from, I didn't do, and I actually, with the exception of one customer who approached me separately later, I don't do any work with any of the customers of my previous job shop, just keep it clean that way. But it still felt weird. I'm definitely competing technically with my employer.
Sure.
So eventually Steve, the engineer, he offered me a drafting job making plumbing drawings during the day. And that way I could be in the same building technically. I could work fewer hours if I had jobs that came up. And so he offered me that. I took a little bit of a pay cut working for him. But that worked out really well because I could work full time and have my job. I could support myself. Then I could clock out and head downstairs. And Steve was really generous in that he let me pretty much choose my hours. I could go down to part-time if I wanted. So I would usually do full-time for him, nights and weekends for myself. Occasionally I'd get a really hot job in because that was the other thing I could compete on. If I didn't have a lot of work, I could turn stuff around same day. So a lot of other job shops in the area with, crappy work they didn't want to do themselves, they could offload it to me for, at $50 an hour shop rate. I'd still make my money. They could get their parts same day turnaround. I would underbid anybody I could. If I could get shop work in the door, I would underbid them. And that worked out quite a bit. So over the next year, I just did that. I'm very conservative. I really hate risk, which is weird to try to start a business with that kind of approach. But I figured, all right, I could do a slow off ramp from my day job and slowly increase my night thing. At that point, I was, paying full rent at market rate for the shop floor. And then one day I got my paycheck in from the engineering firm and I open it up and it has a negative amount on it. But what's up with this? So I talked with my boss and he's like, well, it looks like because obviously health and insurance is taken out of your paycheck, you didn't work enough hours this month to get a positive. And so technically you owe us money. And also we had to sit down. I think you need to go full-time on your own. Because at that point I had worked so many hours on my own thing and I could just pretty much choose which one I'd go up, that it made much more sense for me to be going off on my own completely. So at that point, that was kind of like the last push of, okay, maybe this is safe enough for me to support myself on. So that was in 2022 or 23 was when I quit that job and went full-time with Covenant. Yeah, I've been married for about a year at that point. So I was pretty eager to, I'm very, very scared about risk. I want to make sure that family was fed and all that. But the slow off ramp made it really, really easy to go. That's where we are today. Then fast forward a little bit, 2 months ago, we moved to an 1,800 square foot facility, a lot closer to my home. No longer the 500 square foot corner of a warehouse. Pulled in a second machine. So I've got a two 3-axis VMCs. We're pretty basic in that regard. But we do probably equal parts, IT, tech, aerospace, and medical, and then we get a bunch of random stuff in between. But that's where we're at today.
What is up, Metalworking Nation, Making Chips family? It is an even year, which means IMTS is coming. September 14th through 19th at McCormick Place in beautiful Chicago. It is the largest manufacturing trade show in North America, bringing together thousands of manufacturers, OEMs, and solution providers every 2 years to explore how new technologies are being applied to real shop floors. So whether you're planning future capital investments, benchmarking operations, or simply trying to cut through the noise around emerging technologies, IMTS is designed to help manufacturers make better, more informed decisions. Whether you've been going for years or this might be your first time, put it on your calendar right now. Schedule your time away from the shop. It's good to get out and see new things. It's going to be a big party. I hope to see you there. Go to imts.com and register today.
So I am curious. I love entrepreneur stories. I could sit here and listen to these all day. But you've said risk, I don't know, half a dozen times. And you said it yourself, right? I mean, risk adverse people don't typically become entrepreneurs. It's the riskiest thing you could possibly do. What are some of the early risks that you had, that you did face, and that you still see as like these kind of go, no go, like these could end it? What are you faced with? What did you face that were the biggest struggles?
To be honest, there's not a lot. I kind of took I adopted the mindset early on not to take a risk so big that I could sink the boat, which kind of meant that take any and all the risks up until then, but that's like your cutoff. So if I'm facing a decision where it's so big that I could lose the shop, don't do that. Okay. So part of that was like, I pay cash for anything. There's no financing on any of the equipment, anything that we have here, which means it's really hard to go bankrupt if you don't owe people money.
Sure.
The bigger risks tend to be usually on the jobs I bring in. I feel like I have eyes too big for my stomach, and I'll say, yeah, we can do that, no problem. Then we get it in, like, oh, holy crap, how are we going to do this? Those have been pretty terrifying. We had one a while ago. I used to sub out lathe work and took a risk where to sub that out to try to get more parts in from a particular customer. They might have a certain mix of mill to turned parts. And I used to sub out quite a bit. I lost quite a bit of money doing that. Usually it was either delays from subs, quality issues with subs. I didn't have a good system I used to just spot check sub work. And then I realized that spot checking does not actually catch any defects or all the defects. So we had an instance where I had a new customer. I was at West Tech 2 years ago, got a call. One of my existing customers had referred one of their other customers to me. And that customer called me and asked, hey, can you do these? These are pretty tricky. And it was shafts. And like, yeah, I could do that. We have a good sub network. I had a guy that I sub work out to. So he was like, all right, cool. As long as you can do it, we'll send them to you. Send them to us. Took on that job. I was going to basically break even or make a couple $100 on that one. Send it out to the sub. They did it. They going to bring it back. We spot checked exactly half of them. I missed the defected parts. A quarter of them were bad. I spot checked half. Didn't catch any of the bad ones. So it could have been my spot checking was bad. That went then to gave that to my customer. They coated these shafts with rubber. They were big rubber rollers. And so they coated them. They went out to their customer, who then went to the OEM end customer somewhere in the Great Lakes area. And it was 2 months later, after all the work had done, past machining had been done, they caught them. They're like, hey, these are bad. The rubber needs to get stripped, remachined before they're good. Yeah, that freaked me out. I didn't have good terms written up or anything. So at that point, I was like, well, we did screw you. It was my responsibility to check any work that we shipped. We didn't do that or didn't do it good enough. So that was, I forget how long ago that was, but basically I asked them to tell me how much their personal damages were and we'd cover it. And that was expensive. That's
that 2 layers up above them.
Yeah. I mean, time delay. I couldn't do anything about the time delays. That's probably the biggest thing in manufacturing. There's damage, So I, paid them back for their loss on, trusting us for the work, and that hurt to do. That probably set us back for a good 6 months to a year in equipment buying. But that was kind of like one of those risks that I no longer do that in that particular way. But it was just shy of big enough to sink the shop. So glad I didn't go bigger.
What a lesson, though. I'm curious, with that customer, given how you handled it, are they still a customer today?
Yeah, that was the first and last job we did for them. So that was
okay.
Yep, that sucked. Which I get it. Like if I had,
sure.
Part of it was they asked. It was one of those on the phone. Hey, you can do this, right? And I'm like, yeah, we can absolutely do it, no problem. And we could fail that. That was a really big lesson for me because that hurts personally. It hurt financially, of course. We didn't do the whole. We have it in our terms now. We haven't had an incident like that for years, but I could have pulled the industry standard thing, which is, well, we'll just give you a refund on the work that you paid us to do. I think that's pretty common in most industries. One, I didn't cover myself in terms. Two, that feels dirty to me to do because it really did harm them. And then, of course, that affected me personally. So after that, it was, if we sub anything out, it's 100% inspection. As a result, I don't sub anything these days, or it's very, very rare that I do. Might open that up again in the future, but I'm a lot more cautious on that going forward.
Yeah. It can work well, but you really have to have a trusted relationship with those subs and have a good incoming inspection process and really flow down the requirements and lots of little things you can do to make it more successful, but it's still risky.
Yeah, I think it needs a process. I didn't have a process, and part of the reason I was subbing out to begin with was to ease up the load on us. So you'll notice I say us a lot. It's me and my wife working, and I've kind of defaulted into saying us in conversation with employees, but for the most part, it's just me.
Got it. Wow, what a story! You definitely have grit. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah,
it's make fun. It through all that.
Yeah, a lot of.
Not everyone would do that.
Yeah, a lot of late nights. We had a couple instances, especially when I had just the TM1, where it'd be people would need stuff the next day. Via load the machine. Couple hour runtime till the next tool change. So I'd get out a cot, sleep in the other room. My alarm would set it off at the time when I'm supposed to change tools, go out, change tools, do that for a couple days. We had a couple of those incidents during that. A lot of fun stories.
Yeah, I don't know very many entrepreneurs that don't have those stories. And I mean, I can tell you 35 years later in my career, those are, even though those suck at the time, they're also kind of the things that stick with you. And and you remember fondly too. I'm sure Paul's got.
We had
stories like
all-nighters at ProCNC.
Sure. It's. I mean, you're no longer, when you're looking back on it, you don't feel the immediate pain. So now it's fun. At the time, definitely not so fun. But it also, I think, whether it's a character or an emotional thing. It's just kind of like, okay, that's the sort of shop we were at the time. Mm-hmm. And at least, in how we do things, that's what we are now, right? Obviously you want processes and everything to make sure you don't have to do that. But when it comes to delivering good parts and delivering them on time, and I think those are just subsets of keeping your word. Obviously you can't do that 24/7, but having the kind of an ethical component to, we said we're going to do it, or we're going to make it right, and not by the letter of what we said, but by the spirit of what we said.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I know we wanted to talk a little bit about culture, and I think you just talked about it, right? I mean, it's, if you establish that type of culture now, when it is just you and your wife, as you add people, that'll flow through to them, right?
Yeah. And that was part of the, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I mean, that's the foundation of what becomes a great business that your customers can rely on, your employees can rely on. Because your employees will see that same thing. So, okay, well, he promised me something too, right? And he stayed up all night to make sure I got it.
Right. Yeah. That was part of the, like the covenant manufacturing. That's part of the impetus for the name. Part of it was a little bit of theological influence, but more particularly, it's kind of come into it for someone who's not really familiar with the term covenant. Most people kind of think of it as like a Bible word for contract, which is roughly correct. A particular aspect of it that we really try for the shop is, we're not trying to use the shop to be preachy or anything. What we're trying to say with the word covenant is, we said we're going to do something, and we're not just saying that as a contract that we made an agreement and we're, I guess, because the law will enforce it if we don't, or small claims will come get us. Is when we say we're going to do something, there's an ethical component to it. There's not like that work-life split where I have a certain standard of ethics in my personal life and honesty in my personal life and a separate one in my business practices. It's, just like if I said that I'm going to show up at a friend's house, or there's an expectation that I'm going to do them a favor, they do me a favor. Just like I won't, strand a friend at the airport when I'm supposed to pick them up. Right. That same like, okay, that's dirty if you do that. That's how we approach that with, all right, we said we're going to be delivering these parts to this spec at this particular time.
Sure.
So I'm trying to, part of the naming approach is try to get that congruity in between the two, because it's an early stage shop. We don't have super advanced equipment. We can hit very tight tolerances, but we're not 5-axis. We're not EDM. We don't have anything, I'd say, particularly special in the tech approach. Like getting the basics done right is really where, because especially starting out, that's all I could do. But it turns out you can actually compete pretty hard on those. And as long as those are the main foundation, I don't think there's not that much more you need to do for good profit in a shop. I think that's, it's the 80% of what gets money in the door.
So what's next? Like, where are you going? What's that next equipment? Like, where do you want to focus? What do you see as, that couple year future for your shop?
I think, we just moved to a bigger facility. That was a big move. I've been wanting to move for a while. We're busted at the seams. So now we have room for quite a few more machines. Big thing is we've got 2 machines that got me working. So now I have more capacity that I need to nail down the processes to see, okay, what's my actual new capacity? So quite a bit of that is this year, an ERP system for sure. I really like ProShop, so probably going to go with that, but we're not entirely sure if that's exactly what we need just yet. That, then tooling is it. Basically, I got the next machine to get a little bit out. Then we got to get more cash in. Of those, I think we can get quite a bit more production in. It's a super boring answer, but just basic tooling. Yeah. I'm looking at 0 point.
Is there a niche or anything that you're hoping to dial in on in the future? Or?
There's a couple ones. So we weirdly got some medical contracts that we get high volume work in. So we're probably I'm looking to pick up Swiss machining soon, not for fancy type stuff, but we do a lot of small diameter, a few thousand at a time, simple stainless rods that need to be done right and done quickly. So right now I fixture them in the mill, and those work. You do have to sit in front of it So it'll be really nice to have a bar feeder or bar loader and get those done. Aerospace, we're getting quite a bit more. One of our recent customers, we've been doing a lot of tooling work for them. We're likely going to be, we got a couple audits recently that they seem to really like our stuff. So it seems we're probably going to be moving more into the exotic materials. I think with 3-axis work only, the second machine that we have now is an Okuma, and we can handle a lot heavier or tougher materials. Is
that a boxway machine or is that a linear guide machine?
I think it's a boxway. Yeah.
Yeah.
So with being that I'm sticking to all cash and we're not buying super fancy new machines, the older ones that have been kept in good condition, they can really handle a lot of nice stuff. So I think probably a good profit spot for us is going to be the exotics that are difficult to machine, but features that we can do on a 3-axis. There seems to be quite a bit of room there. So I think that's the main thing we're going to be chasing.
Very cool. Certifications, anything like that you're...
We'll see.
I guess if you're going to go aerospace and medical, there'll be some you'll have to.
Yeah, it totally depends on exactly which. I got to get familiar with the cert spots to begin with. So far, our customers have been happy with doing their own in-person audits, and then they'll run our parts through their QC system. And I understand there are certain types of things that you can't do that with. For the most part, we've taken on a few government jobs here or there, and I really don't like the financing terms that come with them. And because
Amen.
we make so much more money, the better I have a face-to-face relationship with them. The bigger the company that I've tried to work with, the more difficult it is to get work that fits us, and we're able to fit them better. So that, as a whole, I tend not to go after any sort of defense or government work, just because I can... If I could talk to somebody and I can call an engineer over a print discrepancy and get an answer, obviously verify by email, because if it's not written down, it didn't happen.
That's right.
If I could do that, then those jobs go really smooth. So it's really weird where that tends to mean we don't need as many certs to go in.
Sure.
But we really need to have a rock solid personal relationship. Obviously, those two shouldn't conflict. But because we emphasize a lot more on the personal side of it, there's quite a few, and we'll probably talk about this in a little while, but there's quite a few older machine shop owners retiring, and they've had legacy customers for decades. Those customers are looking for newer shops. So I have some customers or older shops will sub overflow work to me. And now those owners are starting to retire and they're starting to refer their customers to me. And so like California Valley, there's a lot of agriculture parts. They're not super simple and they're not super difficult, but they're very particular on pricing, and they need to know that they're going to get what they've had or better from the last few decades. So
very cool story. Just a couple questions. Did you have when you were first going out and knocking on doors and finding work, did you have a hard time getting people to take you seriously because you look like you're 14?
It didn't. it wasn't too difficult. One, there's a decent amount that was online. Two, growing facial hair really helped. Like I noticed the market. Collections too, actually. Collections issues went way down.
When you had facial hair?
Yeah. Well, after I was able to grow facial hair, that took a while.
That's awesome. That's the quote of the collections went down once I grew a beard.
It's weird.
Total side note, I knew a guy in sales in the 90s, back in the last century. And he was young. I mean, we all were. And he actually started like dyeing his hair salt and pepper.
Oh, that's smart.
So he could have that, like, so he wasn't so young. I mean, because he looked young even for as young as we were.
Yeah.
So it's just funny when you talk about it. I mean, it does.
I got to consider that.
Makes a difference. Yeah. I think it's like just for men, but the opposite, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's age hasn't been all too difficult, mostly because early on I didn't try to bite off too much more than I could chew. It was overflow work for the most part, and usually it'd be like when somebody's kind of screwed and backed up into a corner. Right. So the early jobs were all like, next day turnaround or within a week.
Can you save me?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And when an engineer has their quite a bit, this would happen. You have an engineer who has their project that they're the head of, but they don't have enough weight to throw around for their own machine shop scheduling or with purchasing to say, hey, I want this supplier, not that supplier.
Mm-hmm.
And so that it often be the case, this guy is going to miss his deadline unless he can get somebody to make his parts. And it's not hard to compete if there's no one who's competing with you. So if I could give them a next day turnaround, they take it on. And that kind of built trust over time.
Yeah.
And it was quite a bit, and I really appreciate this. Machinists are known to be pretty grumpy, the older ones for sure.
No.
But I think everyone has I gotta pay it forward, because it's such a high skill industry. You can't learn it in a single college course. It really does take quite a bit of time to actually master even the fundamentals of something. And so whether it's other machine shop owners or buyers and things like that, they were actually really eager to try to get it into another young shop. And I would say being young was probably more of an advantage than a disadvantage. That, and I was pretty familiar with Instagram and LinkedIn, and so we could get quite a few customers in with them, and that requires less of the face-to-face. It was if you have a nice picture, and if your picture of a part that looks something kind of similar to what they already need, and if that happens to coincide with them being frustrated with another vendor, it's a pretty easy shot for them to reach out. And then we've got the part. And later I'd like to make face-to-face contact, but that's after we've already given them good parts. They already know the quality. At that point, they tend to look past the age quite a bit.
Yeah, makes sense.
So what advice would you give to someone else that's even younger in their journey than you? Just thinking about starting a shop.
I would say start smaller in terms of ambition, but sooner overall. I think the big thing that a lot of entrepreneurs in any industry, but especially machining, have is they have an ideal goal of what they want their business to look like. But that ideal goal takes quite a bit of money to even get it started. So what they'll usually do is they'll wait for years before they save up enough money. At that point, of course, they have a lot more responsibilities and are spending more money, and they just don't get it started. I think, like, if you have a product idea, if you want to start a machine shop, finding the cheapest and smallest way to just get in the door and get it going, even before you have all the skills, even before you have any of that. Because I was a 1, maybe 2 year apprentice by the time I started a machine shop. So, I mean, I was really not qualified. I don't think I was qualified to run anything newer than like a 2004 machine by the time I started my own shop. But because you learn so much faster when your money and your time is on the line, start sooner. It's always so much easier to get started than most people say. Of course, you have to spend more time than you would otherwise, but especially when you're young, you've got way more time than you have money. So spend the time. It's going to go anyway.
Yep. And I would venture to say that based on the story and just doing a little bit of research on you, that your knife making business early on as a teenager, just the fact that you made something, interacted with people, sold it, collected the money, like those were skills that added up to having confidence that you could do this, or just the not being so overwhelmed with every single aspect of it. You had a little bit under your belt already.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was
because you got a pretty good following on Instagram, and
part of it was Instagram was easy to get a big following at the time. There was not the millions of accounts there are now, but it really was. I mean, any good media platform is all about relationships and interaction. It's so that doing the knives, I mean, it's an art form anyway, so it lends well to good photography, lots of pictures, lots of talking about it. Story writing is a big one. I think I'd really try to emphasize. I really don't do well with speaking media, which is ironic. So sorry about this.
You're doing pretty darn well.
I'd say you're just fine.
You're well spoken.
I appreciate that. Writing, and occasionally photography are I'm a lot more comfortable with. And so having in the knife industry, having gotten comfortable with those already, it made it, I will say, it made it quite a bit easier. Once I was in a new realm of machining, those were not, I didn't have to catch up on quite as much, which I think is a huge advantage for younger people. You can get your iPhone out and you can take really crisp, nice looking pictures. And if you know how to interact with social media, whether it's writing or short form content like videos, there's a lot of stuff in there that takes quite a bit of time to do well. and actually bring people in, hook them on. And I think a lot of younger people kind of take for granted, but it goes quite a ways when bringing in sales.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. That's good advice. So one thing we want to ask our guests on this series is if there's someone you admire or look up to in the industry that we can help connect you with.
Ooh, that's tough because it is fairly easy to get people.
You're like, I don't need you guys.
Like, I don't need you.
No. Maybe we should expand it beyond just people or a resource we can, how can we be a resource?
I probably a lot of the show or community type events, I think. Like we were talking a little bit before started recording IMTS and the Summit on the Summit. Those are two big events that I'm looking forward to. Hopefully making it to both. I don't know if I'll make it to either one. I mean, it's trying to figure out because I definitely want certain things and I'm trying to figure out how to articulate it. I think it's conversations with people like you guys. It's like, can I reach out and ask about XYZ sort of relationship or question? It's a lot of it is like some questions are like very technical, like, all right, what sort of tooling do I need for XYZ thing, which you can get with, especially with AI language models that are out there. It's pretty easy to get that sort of information. A lot more of that is the wisdom type stuff. And those I think are a lot more valuable. To be honest, I've gained so much value just from, all the podcasts that you guys do. Like I feel comfortable talking to you guys because I have your voices in my head 24/7 already. Those are the big ones. I'd like to get in with talk to a lot more of the Toolpath type crew, Titan Gilroy crew, a lot of the younger people out there. There's not a lot of young machine shop owners that I know and in regular community with, so I'd love to connect with them and get.
We have about a dozen or so that will be on the series. So
that's impressive.
We'll definitely connect you all together so you can.
You guys are on top of it.
Yeah, it's making me feel like I'm getting a couple ideas from that answer. I mean, one, I'll certainly speak for myself. I spend about an hour and a half on a phone call today with a young shop owner that is a listener that has reached out with a question. I'm always available.
I appreciate
most
that.
of us are always available.
Yep.
But Paul, kind of what I'm hearing there, as we want to tie this back with IMTS and stuff, almost maybe to the student summits. We need to make sure all these guys get there, and then we need to help connect them too. I mean, like that community building around this, like an Al Wutmo with Toolpath is doing, and I mean, I'll speak for Al. Al will spend an hour on the phone with you. I mean, that's awesome. The greatest thing about this industry is that like everybody's so willing and helpful, willing to be helpful to the entire industry.
Yeah. And that has changed. That wasn't that way necessarily 20 years ago, but it really seems to be that way now.
Paul, tell me about your trip to Italy.
I went there with the NTMA and we got to tour SMW Autoblok, 2 different facilities. Absolutely blew me away. World-class, enormous places. I can't even count how many machines there were, but so much automation. One of the most incredible takeaways for me was the breadth of what they made. I did not know they made so many workholding products and automation products. And I loved watching a big chuck machine a little chuck. So they were machining chucks in huge lathes. I thought that was super fun.
Yeah, you introduced them to me after you came back, and they've been to my shop. And the ideas they have to like breathe new life into some of my machines and the tools and the jobs that we're running was just shocking.
And then one of the coolest things is we're bringing this new automated pallet delivery system, the Hennig workflow, to market. And guess what the interface is? It's SMW 0-point locators. It's really sweet.
We're getting ready to get some of those.
So how do people find SMW Autoblok to look through that massive catalog of products?
It's SMW Autoblok, BLOK.com.
Yeah, get rid of that C. SMW Autoblok, BLOK.com.
And Paul, speaking of IMTS and the Student Summit, I think we left something out earlier.
Yes, we are planning to have AMT collaborate with us on this series and bring as many of these young shop founders together as we can to do some kind of event with their student summit at IMTS. So, get you guys on some panels or some networking where even younger students still in high school or whatever can come and talk to, people within their sort of age range that they still kind of relate to. I can't relate to Mike and I anymore, but, someone that in the last few years has started a business, has bought a business, has gotten into it as an entrepreneur, and really see if we can't spark that next generation yet to follow you guys into the industry.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are the future of it. And as Paul just pointed out, I think I did the math correctly that Paul and I are the same age. And I think I did the math in my head correctly that we are exactly double your age. So,
oh, wow.
So it makes us feel super old. But,
wow, we just got into it young.
Well, Caleb, thank you again for joining us and sharing your story. We admire you a lot and respect the grit that you had and the perseverance to, and the honor to like how you named your business and to do the right thing when things get tough, and that's inspiring. So appreciate you joining us and sharing all that today.
Yeah, Caleb, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for hosting. I mean, this is part of my struggle in figuring out, okay, what you asking who would be valuable for me to connect with and that kind of thing. It's tough because I've gotten so much from these podcasts. Like it's literally the foundation on the business practices we have now, whether it's financing or the importance of a good sales pressure, how to organize a shop, what levels to build and where, what industries are doing it. There's so much information that you both at a minimum, but the Making Chips Network as a whole has put out that it's. I mean, this media is how, people my age are learning. And it's really, I think it's really going to steer the direction of the industry for the next generation for sure.
Well, we certainly appreciate that. That's
humbling.
It's incredibly humbling and we love doing it, and we love doing it for the reasons you just said. So,
well, I appreciate it.
So Caleb, if people want to reach out and connect with you, how would you recommend they do so?
All right. Well, website is the primary way to see our capabilities. That's covenantmfg.com. You can look me up on LinkedIn, Caleb Harris, my name. I'm mostly active on there. I'm also on Instagram, covenantmfg. Not there as much these days, but every once in a while I'll keep media up there. And then if you either want to reach out, talk shop, or inquire about parts, or just want to kick it around, you can email me, Caleb at covenantmfg.com. Always looking forward to do meetups. And if anyone happens to be in the Sacramento area, we love hosting people over at our shop. And if you want to check things out, I'd like to do community events at our shop at some point now that we have room. So if you're ever in the area, hit me up.
That's awesome.
Right on. So Caleb, you know how we try to close out all these episodes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's see here. What do we got, Mike? So if you don't start a shop at all because you're not inspired to join the industry, then you're not making chips. And if you're not making chips,
you're not making money.
Bam.